Man, let me tell you, that Packers game was one of those that really test your patience as a fan. You sit there, all hyped up, snacks ready, energy high, and then boom, the first half hits, and it's like watching paint dry. I'm not even kidding. I was this close to grabbing a blanket and taking a nap. 0-0 at halftime. No rhythm on offense. Both teams just trading punts like they were playing hot potato. It felt like one of those old-school, grinded-out games where every single yard feels like a battle. But hey, a win is a win, and that's all that really matters at the end of the day. Now, people can complain all they want about how boring it looked, but if you really understand football, you know this was not the kind of matchup where you go out guns blazing. This was a cold, windy night in Lambeau Field. You don't come here expecting fireworks. You come here to survive, to control the ball, to not make stupid mistakes. And that's exactly what the Eagles did. They played smart, they played tough, and they walked out with the dub. Sure, it wasn't pretty. But pretty doesn't get you a win in Lambeau when the weather feels like Antarctica. I get it though. Watching that first half was painful. The offense looked flat. The play calling was conservative, maybe too conservative for some people's taste. But here's the thing. This wasn't the game to take risks. You saw what happened when the Packers tried to get aggressive. Fourth down after fourth down, they got stuffed. It's like they didn't realize what kind of battle they were in. Sometimes, you gotta read the room. And in this case, the room was freezing cold and screaming, run the ball, play defense, and don't screw up. I know a lot of people are pointing fingers at Kevin Patchello, saying he wasn't creative enough, that the offense lacked spark. And look, I'm not saying the guy was perfect. There were moments where I was sitting there on the live stream thinking, what are we doing here? Like 3rd and 12, and we just run it up the middle. I get it. It looked soft. But once you look back and see the final score, you realize why. This was the kind of game where playing it safe was the right call. You take what the defense gives you, you avoid turnovers, and you trust your defense to do their job. Speaking of the defense, holy Jalen Phillips. That man was everywhere. You could feel his impact from the very first drive. He was hurrying the quarterback, collapsing the pocket, setting the tone for the whole defense. This is the kind of energy we've been missing on the edge. When you have a guy flying around like that, it changes everything. It's contagious. Everyone else starts playing harder. Jalen Hunt, same thing. Dude looked fresh, disruptive, and dangerous in his role. When he's not overworked and can stay rotational, you really see the best of him. And let's give credit to Nolan Smith too. The guy might not have been on the field every snap, but when he was, he made it count. Pressures, hits, staying disciplined on the edge, it was all there. That's what you need from your depth pieces. It's not about flashy stats every play, it's about consistency. And the Eagles' defense had that all night. They didn't let Jordan Love breathe. I said it before, and I'll say it again, Jordan Love is not that guy. He's been figured out, man. You take away his safety blankets, his go-to guys, and suddenly he's lost out there. You could see it in his face. The Eagles' defense had him seeing ghosts. Now, before I get too deep into the defense, let me talk about that one call from Nick Sirianni that had me ready to call the FBI myself. 4th and 6, barely 20 seconds left, and you call a deep shot to A.J. Brown? What was that? I get wanting to keep your star happy, but come on, man. You can't be out here playing like that with the game on the line. Kick the field goal. Run the clock. Throw a quick slant. Anything but that. That kind of decision just doesn't make sense, especially in a game where your whole identity was built on being smart and patient. You don't break character in the final seconds. You stay locked in. Honestly, if he ever tries something like that again, I might just start my own investigation. Because, bro, that looked suspicious. I don't know what was going through his head. It's like he saw Smitty catch that dagger earlier and thought, oh yeah, let's make AJ happy too. Nah, that's not how you call a game. You play to win, not to pad numbers. Luckily, it didn't cost us, but that kind of decision-making can bite you later. Speaking of AJ, yeah, rough day for him. Sometimes it just happens. Not every week's gonna be a highlight reel. The Packers' secondary actually did a solid job keeping him contained. But that's the beauty of having multiple weapons. When AJ's off, Smitty steps up. And that dagger from Hurts to Smith? Perfect. On the money. That's what you expect from your quarterback. Even on a night where the offense looked flat, Hurts still made the big plays when they mattered. Let's talk about Hurts for a second. Yeah, he fumbled. Not ideal. But they didn't score off it, and that's what matters. No interceptions, no huge mistakes, just managing the game. That's leadership. You can't expect fireworks every week, but you can expect him to control the tempo and make smart decisions. That's exactly what he did. He finished with around 180 passing yards and a touchdown. In these conditions, that's solid. People forget, this was not a dome game. This was freezing, windy Lambeau Field. The ball was like a brick. And man, Dallas Goedert deserves a little shout-out too. He's been one of the most reliable guys lately. Didn't get a touchdown this time, but he moved the chains, blocked well, and kept the offense afloat. When you've got guys like that doing the dirty work, it makes a huge difference. Special teams were, well, average. Nothing spectacular, but no disasters either, and sometimes that's all you want. Gibson almost did something boneheaded, but thank God it got ruled a touchback. You can't afford mistakes like that in a tight game. Back to the defense, though, because that's where this game was won. Jalen Phillips, again, monster night. 8 pressures, 7 hurries, 6 tackles, a forced fumble, a recovery. The man was on fire. That's the kind of performance that puts the league on notice. Welcome to Philadelphia, my guy. That's the energy we've been waiting for. The defensive line as a whole looked like a wall. Jalen Carter was tipping passes, collapsing the pocket, and making Jordan Love hesitate on throws he normally makes without thinking. That's what dominance looks like. Even the secondary, man. I know some fans have been hating on Adoree Jackson lately, saying he's washed or that he's been a liability, but you can't say that after this game. He held his own. He looked confident, sharp, locked in. People forget that cornerback is one of the hardest positions in football. You get burned once, and everyone thinks you're trash. But when you're consistent like Jackson was tonight, you deserve your props. The linebackers, too, were solid. Campbell had that one bad penalty, but otherwise, he was steady. Nakobe Dean struggled a bit early with that holding call, but made up for it with a huge sack fumble later. That's what resilience looks like. You mess up, you bounce back. Zach Bond, same deal. Quietly excellent. You might not hear his name every play, but he's doing his job perfectly. All around, this defense was lights out. Green Bay couldn't get anything going. Jordan Love was pressured on nearly every drive. The Eagles looked like the tougher, smarter team, and in a game like this, that's all that matters. Offense. Yes, snooze fest. But sometimes boring wins football games. Sometimes conservative is exactly what you need. Because in Lambeau, on a night like that, flash doesn't win. Discipline does. And that's what the Eagles showed. You know what's funny? After the game ended, I was reading through the comments, and people were split right down the middle. Half the fan base was losing their minds, saying the offense looked dead, the play calling was soft, that we can't play like this and expect to beat the Lions or the Niners. The other half, though, they understood what this was, a survival game. A cold, ugly, grinded-out win in Lambeau. And honestly, I'm with the second group. Because this wasn't about style points. This was about discipline. You don't walk into Lambeau in freezing wind and try to win a track meet. You play tough, you play clean, and you get out of there with a W. Now, if we're being real, there were definitely moments that had us all shaking our heads. The rhythm was off. Drives stalled for no reason. Too many third and longs that could have been avoided. But again, you could see what the coaching staff was trying to do. They weren't going to hand Green Bay any easy turnovers. They wanted to control the field position, play complementary football, and let the defense take over. It's not flashy, but it's smart. And as much as fans love fireworks, championships are won by teams that know how to win the ugly ones. Still, I gotta admit, watching Hurts hand it off on third and long made me groan. I was on the live stream like, come on, man, at least take a shot. But then, when you step back and see the final score, it all makes sense. They trusted the defense. They trusted special teams. They trusted the conditions. It was chess, not checkers. And in the end, they made all the right moves. One thing that can't be ignored, though, is how much this defense carried the team. You can't ask for more than what those guys gave. Every level of the defense was dialed in. The line was explosive, the linebackers were flying to the ball, and the secondary kept everything in front of them. It was textbook team defense. You could see the confidence growing as the game went on. Early in the first half, the Packers were trying little misdirection plays, screens, quick outs. All the usual stuff to get their young quarterback comfortable, and the Eagles just smothered it. By the third quarter, Green Bay looked completely out of ideas. Jalen Carter deserves a ton of credit too. He might not always show up huge on the stat sheet, but man, the impact is there. Those tipped passes, that interior pressure, it changes everything. You could tell Jordan Love didn't trust his pocket. He'd drop back, look up, and the moment he saw number 98 flashing in his face, he'd bail. That's how turnovers happen. That's how drives die. And that's exactly what Carter and Phillips did all night. They made Love uncomfortable. They made him second-guess every throw. Reed Blankenship also needs some love. He's not the flashiest safety out there, but he plays with such heart and awareness. He was always around the ball, taking good angles, breaking up passes. He's becoming one of those guys you can rely on week after week. And Andrew Makuba, while not having a highlight reel play, looked calm and steady. That's what you need in a game like this. No blown coverages, no risky decisions, just solid, dependable football. And let's talk about Adoree Jackson again. Because man, I love when a player shuts people up. For the past few weeks, all I've heard is fans ripping him apart, saying he's washed, that he doesn't deserve to start. But tonight, he showed up, played his best game of the season, in my opinion. Tight coverage, good tackling, no unnecessary penalties. It's like he heard all the noise and said, "All right, let me remind you who I am." That's the kind of bounce back you want to see from a veteran. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. We can't play like this against Detroit. And you're right. We can't. The Lions are a different animal. They can score fast, they can control the clock, and they're physical. But that's the beauty of this Eagles team. They can adapt. They don't need to play the same way every week. Against Green Bay, you needed patience and grit. Against Detroit, you'll need aggression and execution. And I believe this team can flip that switch when it matters. Because let's be real, Jalen Hurts is still in that MVP conversation. Even in a quiet game like this, he showed command. No panic, no recklessness, just composure. He's learned how to win in different ways. Early in his career, it was all about the big plays, the runs, the deep shots, the highlights. Now, it's about controlling games, making smart reads, protecting the football. That's what elite quarterbacks do. And you can see the chemistry building back up with Smitty. That dagger touchdown was the definition of clutch. Perfect throw, perfect route, perfect timing. That's what you want to see in the fourth quarter of a tough game. Hurts trusted him, and Smitty delivered. And even though A.J. Brown didn't have a big night statistically, you could still see his presence out there. The Packers were doubling him constantly. Every time Hurts looked his way, there were two defenders ready. That's why Smith and Goddard had opportunities, because A.J. still draws that kind of respect. FlyEaglesFly News family, smash subscribe and hit like. Your support keeps the freshest Philadelphia Eagles updates flying in. Drop your take in the comments, and let's talk birds. Whispers are turning into roars across the NFL community as rumors intensify around a potential nullification of the recent showdown between the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles. What began as quiet speculation within front offices has quickly evolved into one of the most discussed topics in league circles, with sources describing the situation as unprecedented and potentially explosive. According to reports circulating behind the scenes, league officials are said to be reviewing irregularities that allegedly occurred during the matchup, though no one seems certain about the nature of these issues. Some insiders suggest it could involve officiating errors so significant that they might have influenced the integrity of the contest. Others hint at technical malfunctions related to communication systems on the sidelines or even possible violations of game day procedures. Neither franchise has issued an official statement, but both have reportedly been advised to maintain silence as the league conducts its internal review. The atmosphere around Lambeau Field and Lincoln Financial Field is said to be tense, with team personnel expressing confusion and frustration over the swirling uncertainty. Veteran analysts are calling it one of the most delicate situations the NFL has faced in years. The possibility of a game result being nullified or replayed is almost unheard of in modern league history, and the potential fallout could be immense. Competitive balance, playoff standings, and even player statistics could all be thrown into chaos if the rumor proves true. Social media has only amplified the frenzy. Fans from both sides are demanding transparency, with some claiming that video evidence might support calls for a review. Meanwhile, others insist the league would never take such a drastic measure, describing the buzz as nothing more than a storm of speculation born from post-game controversy. Still, the silence from the NFL office speaks volumes. Until an official announcement is made, the football world remains on edge. caught between disbelief and anticipation, waiting to see whether this brewing storm will fade away or erupt into one of the most shocking decisions in recent NFL memory. That's a wrap from FlyEaglesFly News. If you want the fastest Eagles updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Sound off in the comments. Let's talk birds.